Sure, like where my name is right now, like where my name is right now, like when we turn off our cameras.
Yes, I can do that after the meeting.
Yeah, it don't have to be today, but I just been needing to ask somebody.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first Disabled Voices of Color Speaker Series event for this new year. We're just going to give everyone a couple of minutes to trickle in, and then we'll start. Okay, now that it's been a couple of minutes, we'll officially start. Just some housekeeping matters, just for a brief visual description. I am a light-skinned, woman-aligned person. I have dark brown, medium to long, curly hair. I'm wearing a yellow shirt that is almost the same color yellow as my background, which is a yellow background. And in one corner, we have the Yo Disabled and Proud logo. And then in the other corner, we have a CFILC logo. Just a brief introduction. My name is Ophia Trexler. I am a Yo Disabled and Proud volunteer, and I will be moderating our first Disabled Voices of Color Speakers Series event for this new year. So now that that's out of the way, we'll get started. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. Just some accessibility features. We have ASL interpreters. They should be pinned. We also have captioning. So in the Zoom toolbar, you can click CC, that's the closed caption button, and you can select show subtitles. And we also have a link to stream text. So that link is going to be put in the chat right now. And you can use this stream text link to follow along with captions on stream text. Next. Just some other accessibility features. We would like you to ask questions to our wonderful speakers during the course of this event, and there's a couple ways that you can do that. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen in the Zoom toolbar. You can use that and you can type your questions there. If that's not accessible to you, or if raising your hand is more accessible, you can hit the raise hand button, and when it's time to ask your question, we will unmute you and you'll be able to speak your question. We also have the chat function. If you need any technical support, you can voice that in the chat and we'll let you know once that issue has been resolved. Next. So just a little bit about the Disabled Voices of Color Speaker Series. So this is a monthly installment, and our Disabled Voices of Color Speaker Series was created to give diverse disabled leaders the capabilities to express themselves and talk about their individual experiences fitting more than one community group. So every month we invite disability activists to speak about their advocacy within the community and how youth can get involved in that advocacy. Some speakers we've had in the past have been Mia Mingus, Ryan Easterly, Dara Baldwin, Nikki Brown Booker, Dante Allen, among others. Next. So now it's time to introduce our speakers. So today we have our statewide community organizer and our statewide youth organizer to talk about their individual background, their experiences being disabled leaders, what they're currently doing, and what their hopes for the futures are. So first I'll introduce Jessica. She is the statewide youth organizer for CFILC. She served as the constituency organizing director for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. She also served as the Western Regional Director for March for Our Lives, served as a field organizer for the California Democratic Party, served in board for Association of Young Americans and Gen Up, and has graduated with 2 bachelor's degrees from Sacramento State University in Ethnic Studies and Political Science. Next. Next we'll be introducing Goldie Talmadge. He has a history of working in advocacy. Prior to CFILC, he worked with an independent living center for 5+ years and has more than 20 years combined advocacy experience. He was a member of CFILC's DO Network, or the Disability Organizing Network, and he is a member of an in-home supportive services advisory committee since February of 2018. He's excited to be aboard the mothership for statewide organization, and he looks forward to changes in our communities, focusing on empowering our choices and options. Thank you both to our speakers. Do you want to just say hi and do a brief visual description?
For sure. I can start. Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Riestra. My pronouns are she, her, ella. A quick image description of myself is that I am a brown Latina woman with brown hair, brown eyes, currently wearing a Yo Disabled and Proud t-shirt, and I have the Yo Disabled and Proud logo, as well as the CFILC logo with also a yellow background. And I'll pass it to Goldie.
Goldie House. My image description would be a light blue background with a circle with the emblem over my top right shoulder with DO Network written inside of it. And over my top left shoulder, there's a circle emblem with the CFILC logo written inside of it. I am a light complected Black male, cornrows going to the back of my head, black square tinted glasses, blue polo shirt, and a dark blue polo shirt and a dark blue cardigan. And happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you to both of our speakers. Today's discussion will be a way for us to connect with disability community on critical topics. Intersectionality, ableism, and disability justice continue to be hot topics among our disability community. Intentionally making space to bring in disabled leaders of color, like you guys, and spotlighting the magnificent work you are doing on behalf of our community is one of the ways we choose to educate and build leadership skills of disabled youth. We appreciate our guest speakers for taking the time to speak with us today. We like to start our interviews with a simple question that is often overlooked. The last couple of years have highlighted for us what we need as a community and how important check-ins have been. With that being said, how are you doing and how are you feeling as a disabled leader living through this pandemic? Goldie, do you want to start?
Thank you. Yes, I'll take it. These past few years has enlightened and informed us and myself and how to be better prepared and how resilient that we are as human beings. Taking care of yourself through this pandemic and finding a safe space and making sure you're able to express yourself comfortably and freely and creating that safe space inside your heart and your mind is a big help, especially when a lot of us are working at home and we already isolated. So we have to just find ways to get that human connection. And I think a lot of us are ready for that interaction in person now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jessica, do you want to go next?
For sure. So definitely I'll start with saying that these past few years have definitely been hard. We have been affected in more than one ways, especially communities of color have been directly affected by COVID in more than one way. Something that I feel has been really demonstrated is that the more you fit in more than one categories, more so more than one group, the more you see the individual disadvantages that you have faced. And that was clearly shown, especially in the beginning, during the COVID era and continuously throughout the years. And for me, that was something that hit hard on a personal level because I do come from a mixed status family and I did lose family members due to COVID. But with that in mind, I am also very passionate about what the future holds. I have seen so many people come together to be able to truly embody the movement of disability rights and kind of change the momentum and how things are seen. More so now than ever before, folks are doing hybrid methods of working from home, going to work, being able to do work remotely, as well as different policies that have been implemented. So there's been a lot of changes that have occurred. And I think people have really learned from this pandemic to truly take the individual importance of self-care, as well as just in general, the importance of what family and everything means. And I have a lot of motivation and I do have a lot of passion to see what work we continuously do because there's so much work that has yet to be done.
Yeah, and thank you to you both for your candor and vulnerability. Our next question is a little bit lighter. Can you both tell us a little bit about yourselves and what motivated you to join CFILC? Jessica, do you want to start?
For sure. So as I had mentioned a little bit in my background, I have done different types of work. So I have done a lot of individual nonprofit work, whether that being working with March for Our Lives, working with different immigration groups, being able to work in women's rights issues, towards today what we're working in disability rights, as well as working in different political campaigns, whether that being on a state and national level. And I truly feel that it's been a lot in being able to discuss the individual issues that are happening on a national basis. However, one key component that is oftentimes missed is the disability realm within the work that is being done. And that is one of the big things that really pushed me into coming into CFILC and really trying to kind of unite like a lot of the individual work that I've done and that I've learned and being able to put it together because every issue is so intersectional with one another. And it is so crucial to make sure that we are connecting it all towards the main big concern, in this case being disability. And yeah, but I think on the personal level, one big thing that did get me to join CFILC was the individual trauma. As I had mentioned, I do come from a mixed status family. I did lose a family member due to having diabetes. She had a double amputation and I was her caregiver. And that was a big hard moment in my life just because I had to take care of that individual family member from age 19 to 20. And it was a really, really hard year. And I learned a lot. And as someone who has always had a disability, but my parents didn't delve deep into my individual disabilities because I had already faced a lot of disadvantages, being a woman of color, being queer, etc. They didn't want to add something else, even though I should have known with different surgeries and different hospital visits and doctor visits. And that kind of really motivated me into delving deeper into my own individual disabilities and getting more in tune with myself and like learning more about ways I can help my individual family, because a lot of my family do carry a lot of disabilities. And what better way than working with CFIOC? So it's been such a pleasure in being able to learn everything that I've been learning and being able to use it in a positive way where I could provide those individual resources towards my own family members.
Yeah, and thank you for that response. Goldie, do you want to go next?
Yes, thank you. I don't have quite as impressive resume as Jessica does, and definitely they have the skills to hold it up as well. I came into advocacy before, a couple of years before 18, having to understand and figure out how to ask questions, coming from multiple diverse backgrounds, but still being from a middle-class family. You're still not given information. You have to guess how to navigate through society. And it got frustrating as a Black man, and no one volunteers information. I started running into other health issues and then other medical issues. And if I didn't know the right questions, I would be told anything. Then I realized if I wanted better answers, I would look for better results by at least trying to understand myself better, what I'm going through, and not blame it all on my surroundings. I didn't want individuals, especially young adults, having to struggle to find information and key questions, or to how to formulate key questions to get the responses that they're asking so that they can move on to the next step in transitioning. Getting medications, having to learn how to advocate for yourself through medications, and doctors just giving you all kind of prescriptions, and you having to make a serious choice for your health and your wellness. What's more important, learning more about myself or taking all these medications, and I don't know why. I was blessed to be able to get more information about my disability by going to a medical facility and being put on a machine, and got an extensive readout about a lot of things has been going on with me and has been going on throughout my life that I had no clue. So this gave me that aha moment that maybe I can show other people how to do this. Maybe I can show other individuals the right word, how to get through the resource, how to get to it, how to locate a phone number. To fast forward, I became disabled about age 18. My first disability, became more physically disabled. I would say end of 2001, 2002, created damage that in my back, which is created paraneuropathy. I was paralyzed on my left side. I had no advocacy. I had no one to help me understand this. I had to figure out how to keep doing this. I went through Department of Rehabilitation. I went through behavioral health. I had to learn about ticket to work programs. I had to understand Social Security, working while you're collecting wages while you're employed, navigating medical systems when they're limited and very one-sided, and you really need treatments. We can't go in asking or being beside ourselves trying to find out what's going on, because the first thing that the people running the office does is label you and then want to remove you. And that's not another label that I needed. In 2016, I came to work for the Disability Action Center in Chico, California. It's an ILC that pretty much introduced me to a world that I wasn't the only one struggling in. My issues became super small because then I realized I had gained resources that I could help other people maybe talk through, maybe fill out, maybe return something, because maybe they couldn't hear, they couldn't read. That was just a superpower to me because we never knew how important it was, or I never knew how important it was because I was so keyed upon myself trying to make it through life. But then when I came into the ILC, I realized and I seen the bigger picture of the individuals, of the diverse communities that are not being served, that are underserved, not getting the information, and it's not just to say that it's just to the individual's fault, because we have to find a way to reach these individuals and how to break that medium to be welcomed in their life, to help provide this guidance. 2 years into the ILC, I joined into the DO Network, where I came across some very miraculous, some very powerful advocates from 28 ILCs being able to team up with, problem solve, troubleshoot, ideas, issues, pandemics that's going on throughout our state, as well as locally, happen to solve and help individuals with advocacy or organizing issues. I looked at CFILC as just this giant umbrella, a mothership. And I wanted to just be able to come here because we can see over California. We can provide skills, strategies, ideas, motivation, support to all advocates throughout California ILCs. I just thought that was a great way for advocates and community organizers to be able to have this medium, this place to be, because there is not an easy way to get and provide advocacy on a simple level. There's nothing simple about advocacy, and I believe that's what motivated me to come to CFILC. I was skeptical at first, just going through things of transitioning, of the realities of being a Black man in a new setting, trying to communicate, trying to learn new things. I surpassed that and grew a toolbox in my mind, where I just added new resources in and took garbage out, or things that I weren't using anymore. And CFILC has, being here now, has given me and broadened my opportunities and access to such supports for California. Thank you.
Oh, and thank you for your response. And I think you bring up a really good point that as disabled people of color, not only are there challenges in entering the advocacy space, but even to just get the diagnosis and like all of these things to where you can finally say like, okay, like I do have a disability. Like there are so many barriers to that as well. So with that being,
can I say one more statement? That is true that, because when I was, for a long time, places make us believe that it's psychosomatic. There's nothing wrong with us, it's in our head, but they can't walk in our shoes. But to be able to get that relief and to know that I had doctors, documentation, lawyers, that kind of put a lot of easement at my head, at my helm And while other people were judging me, I had to remind myself, you already have your own proof. You don't need to prove nothing to no one else. Just need to learn how to move forward with it. Thank you.
Yeah, and that beautifully leads us into our next question, which is that multiple members within the disability organizing realm fit into more than one identity. As someone who fits into more than one identity, just what has that experience been like for you entering the advocacy space? Have you been confronted with any issues within your workplaces? And if so, how do you manage? Jessica, would you like to go first?
Sure. So I'll start saying a little bit about the different groups that I partake, just because I take a lot of pride in that. So for one, I am a Latina brown woman who comes from a mixed status family. I am queer. I am in general, I am disabled and so on. So it is a big and something that I'm very passionate in expressing, just because from a young age, I have had to face a lot of individual traumas due to my individual background. And as mentioned, I have worked in different realms, in different positions, in different nonprofits, in different campaigns from a state to national level. And I can definitely say there's been quite a lot of struggles that have been combated. I'll quickly generalize. One good example was in one job that I worked on. It was very much emphasized kind of my disability, because I didn't really talk about it very much until I started talking about it. And so many different questions that started coming in. Then it started going on into my individual background, from also coming from a single parent household and so on. And that started getting very much involved into different conversations. So instead of focusing on the work that I was doing, it started a lot of the emphasis started putting around like the different community groups that I was a part of. And that did lead towards a lot of individual self-hatred that was felt within the work that I was doing. And it was not welcoming. However, how did I overcome that? Honestly, it came with a lot of peace of mind and just giving myself some grace and staying true to myself. More often than not, it got really hard to be in certain environments and being the only representation of different type of communities that I was a part of. And it led towards a lot of crying and a lot of anger and frustration, but it took away from my individual self-care. And that is something that I've been changing. As of right now, like, I focus my self-care above anything else. I also make sure that I do physical care, working out, like reading, etc. Things that in general give me some sense of grace. But nevertheless, at the end, making sure that everything that I work in, I stand firm believer in, just to make sure that no matter the circumstances or the outside forces, I am staying true to myself, because that is the most important thing. And that I am staying true towards the community that I am representing, no matter what other folks might think, what other folks issues might be. That has so far done me a lot of justice, because I have been able to be in a much better spot than I ever been, and be very energized and always like very like all for doing different things and so on. So it's just a change of mentality and a change of viewing things. And viewing it more than anything from such a positive light. And I am very grateful for that, because I am happier than I've ever been. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Goldie, would you like to say anything on that question?
Yes, I would. Thank you. I can empathize with Jessica very well. I'm a janitor by trade. I did the job being a supervisor, just doing my own job, not having to worry about anybody. Didn't have nobody looking over his shoulder, didn't have nobody cutting and whispering. I became disabled. I had to relearn how to do something different. Place me in an office environment. I was happy that I was, welcome somewhere. Then as you go in and you start trying to feel your way around, you realize no matter how you look at it, you're still different. And there's people in the office that makes it very apparent that you're different, with comments about your hair, comments about, you're not smiling, you're upset, you're angry. Why do you have to say things hostile? I have a unique communication. I don't communicate like everyone else. But there's no but. I was frustrated a lot. I was ticked off. What I did do was I kept asking for trainings. I started asking for harassment trainings. I started asking for cultural sensitivity trainings. This is because I realized I was working in a demographic that had never, to my knowledge, had a colored individual or a Black person working in their center. They're used to servicing a majority demographic of white Caucasian individuals. My best tool and resource was the option of communication. I could have always took it a negative route. I had to learn and ask what trainings I could get that's available. What trainings are y'all willing to bring in? Can I go into a course study and do some course studies on communication? Because I had to learn how to communicate with a whole different group of individuals inside of an office, dealing with office politics, dealing with office rhetoric, dealing with assumptions, presumptions, and I'd say backbiting. That's not something I was used to doing. I'm used to going in, getting a job list, grabbing some keys, taking care of my job and going home. But there was something in this job that I was loving doing, because I fought for my position for over 3 years before I could really understand what it was that I was doing at the ILC and being able to work statewide, because I still seen a bigger picture than me. And regardless of what everyone else's personal inhibitions were, my determination was to increase my self-worth and internal value. So I decided to just start training, learning communication, learning how to use dialect, that linguistic that's used in the office space, so that people could literally understand what you're saying, I guess, because people would state that they didn't understand what I was saying because I wasn't saying it clear or concisely. And for me, I didn't know no other way to say it. Being one of that fits in multiple pockets of identity. I could say the saddest part about that is nothing was ever noticed about me until I got a piece of equipment. Then that became my identity. That's not our identity. That doesn't make us who we are. So I had to learn how to set aside and build that internal strength that everybody is going to be different, and some people are just going to be rude. Some people are just going to be ignorant, just like many people are going to lose the great art of handwriting because they only get the truth from a tablet or a phone. They don't make the connection with a signature or writing or filling out anything. There's a connectivity when you get to put your signature into something or write out letters. Just like there's that connectivity between being able to connect with an individual with their need that they cannot write out or voice, and you're being able to find that happy medium to let them go home with a peace of mind in that next few hours. Self-care, listening to positive affirmations, doing sound healing. I mentioned isolation. I'm isolated a lot, but I do a lot of self-reflecting. Where did I go wrong? Not blaming myself, but where could I make my communication better? Where could I make my actions better with my coworkers? What can I do to bring things closer or make things more connected, not so distant? Because we're beings, not just humans, we're beings, and we actually need each other. And the pandemic showed us that we do, but it brought more people closer to the tablets and the computer connectivity, which still keeps them separate from that human interaction. And I'm going to stop there.
Thank you both for your, again, candor and your vulnerable responses to these questions. We really appreciate it, and hearing your perspective and your experiences in these spaces. Just a reminder, after this next question, we're going to be taking audience questions. I don't see any, and I don't see any hands raised. But if you do have a question for one or both of our wonderful speakers, make sure to put that either in the Q&A box or raise your hand. And if you have any problems with that, make sure to vocalize it in the chat. So our next question is going to be, I think you guys have both kind of touched on this, but if you want to say anything more, can you both discuss what empowered you all into becoming the leaders you are today? And Goldie, we can start with you if you'd like.
Frankly, I just don't see myself as a leader. I see myself as being able to walk with people that are trying to get to the same place. And that's just how I look at it. Being able to have come to a consolidated understanding with a group of individuals that have like-mindedness has brought me more strength to be able to embody that, which give me the way, be able to be empowered to do this, to be an advocate, to be a community organizer, to search, to research, to find factual information that can be provided to our communities to stay informed. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jessica, do you want to touch on anything pertaining to the question?
Can I repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
Just what has empowered you to be the leader that you are today?
Honestly, my family. I come, as I mentioned, from a very mixed status family where the majority of my family is undocumented. Beyond that, we come from a very low income community, and I am the first of my family to have a college degree, and I'm actively pursuing my master's degree. So I take in the individual trauma and the sacrifices that my family has made to provide us with better opportunities, and utilizing them to be the best possible person that I can be. Like, I always, in everything that I do, I always take pride in my parents. Was my father having a middle school education, my mom being a single parent mom when my father was incarcerated, and raising both my brother and I. like they are my active motivation into being the best person that I can be and being the best possible leader that I can be, because they are the true embodiment of strength, and they are my motivation into trying to help support other people who have gone through similar struggles and trauma that they have gone through. Nevertheless, being able to help future young people of my age or younger people to not go through that same trauma that I had to surpass from a very young age. So yeah, like my family is my backbone, and it's my heart and what I utilize every single day to be the best possible person that I can be.
Thank you both again for your responses. I'm not seeing any hands or any questions. So I'll move on to the next question we have prepared, which is, in your own words, what is the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers? Moreover, what does your program do, and why should someone invest in it? Jessica, do you want to go first?
For sure.
Oh, great.
So I was going to say, I can start with saying that the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers is made up of 25 out of 28 member-based centers who which this foundation has different individual programs within it. So we have a DAR program, we have a Do Network program, we have our Yo Disabled and Proud program, we have Abilities Tools program, and I am probably missing a lot more programs, public policy, etc. programs. And the whole goal is that within each individual program, we are actively working on making sure that disability rights is being heard on a statewide level. We do that through different type of ways, which is kind of going into what Yo is about. So for the Yo program, fits youth from the ages of 16 to 28 to be able to feel a sense of disability pride, be able to learn a little bit about public policy, as well as get mentors. Nevertheless, a variety of different resources to be able to help benefit in the long run, to have individual sense of connections when it comes towards disability. We work actively on embodiment, like future leaders, nevertheless organizers, to be able to kind of find different methods and how to fight for their individual rights, as well as how they could be able to utilize those individual skills, whether that being from high school to college, or whether that being college into the workforce, how they could utilize a lot of these skills that they gain while being part of Yo within individual things that they would do in the future. And with that, I'll pass it to Goldie, because I know he would love to talk about more about the Do Network.
Thank you. Like I said, CFILC, California Foundation for Independent Living Centers, I look at it as a mothership. I look at it as a hub that locates and tries to make sure there's resources and information for all the other ILCs, be it grants, be it pandemic information, be it AT equipment, and assistive technology goes a long ways here at the Do Network, and it's helped in a lot of ILCs throughout California. We have so many programs, as Jessica stated. What we do here is try to make sure that these ILCs and these advocates can facilitate their programs by providing skills, trainings, information, technical assistance, strategy planning, as well as while maintaining the founding of grassroots organizing, which brings it to the Disability Organizing Network. We have 25 members in our CFILC advocates. We have about 18 participating advocates and organizers who we work together, not just in one sitting hour. We broke it up in different work groups to help individuals focus on specific ideas and hone in on what their missions are for their center, not just for CFILC, but for their centers, so they can fulfill their grants and their job duties in their office as well. We try, as CFILC tries to help individuals at ILCs, advocacies, and organizing tie their legislative issues to a statewide issue, so we can build that buy-in power with community stories, getting our advocates to find that way to get the community to tell them stories of impacting issues, be it access to voting, lack of internet bandwidth, trying to get a walker until they can make it to their next appointment. Do network. We have to work together in order to find a consensus to help each other. So it's not just one person. We work as a group. We want to make sure that we're all being helpful and resourceful and sharing resources, so that other advocates who may not have the knowledge or capacity to think about or formulate a process, we can help each other create plans, create ideas through brainstorming on how we can gather the community's voices and building that buy-in power with human bodies so they can tell their stories on legislation. The work groups that we provide through Do Network would be, they cover from housing advocacy, voting access and advocacy, long-term supports and services, public policy understanding work group. And I believe that I wanted to create the public policy work group because advocates, they come in and out. The door can tend to revolve quite often. So we get new advocates. So some advocates may not understand the concepts of some of the public policies that are going on or that are being spoken on in some of these meetings. So we want to create a group where we can help tackle the terms in layman's terms, help individuals understand on the level which they grasp it, and help them with the tools to move to the next step after that that understanding has been met. One of the hardest things in being in advocacy and organizing is it's a very extrinsic, rewarding job. Not too thankful in the beginning, but the greatest point is when individuals come back to an office, or you see individuals years down the line and they recognize our centers or our ILCs for doing or providing some service or assistance at a time of need, or advocacy, communication assistance to help sort of make sure someone doesn't lose their rights or access to something. This is what I believe that is a big buy-in for investing into the DO network. But the other hard thing about that is advocates must understand what their priorities are in their area as well as statewide, because we all have issues that are local that we need to tackle and deal with. And we try to work till we have the conversations to a point where we're comfortable with designing a plan, putting in action, and either coming up with informational spreadsheet or creating webinars to present to the community for trainings or to share information about changes that are going to be coming forward. And I think that investing in the advocacy throughout the state would be a big key deal, because the advocates and organizers put in a lot of hard work and time and research trying to help make sure that our communities understand, let's know what we understand as doing our job. Because if we have to be impeccable with our word when we help them with our communities and providing that information, I could talk for a while, but I'm going to leave it there as a buy-in investment on DO Network.
Yeah, and I don't have any experiences with DO Network, but I am a volunteer for YO, and we do have positions open if you would like to work with Jessica. If you know any youth, or if you are a youth. So we have 2 Q&A questions. The first one is, how do you walk into your positions with confidence and not allow stereotypes to get in the way? Do either of you feel particularly compelled to answer that?
I can quickly answer just for the sake of time because we do have 8 minutes. I'll say definitely one big thing at the end of the day is people are gonna say stereotypes and people are gonna talk. There's gonna be good and bad people, unfortunately. I walk with confidence into what I do, because at the end of the day, I know what I am doing and I know what my work is contributing to. And I truly have come to be in a good peace of mind that, like, whatever people say around me, it's up to them. But as long as I'm honest and truthful with what I am doing and what I am representing, that's what matters most. And that people are going to see it. I thankfully have a good working relationship with my coworkers, supervisor, bosses, etc. That we have come to a mutual sense of understanding where we can be able to have that open dialogue as well. So it really depends on the environment where you are. If I know I am in a good place right now, if certain stereotypes were to take place, I could have a good one-on-one with that individual person, being able to have that open dialogue and communication. But I think at the gist of it, it really does come to not letting like outside folks really delve deeper into it, because I did go through that very much, especially in one big portion of my life. And it did take a big toll on me. And it wasn't until I started reflecting and letting that go that I started to do better in the job that I was doing and truly be able to represent the community that I was serving.
Goldie, did you want to answer that question at all?
What's the question again?
How do you walk into your positions with confidence and not allow stereotypes to get in the way?
Coming in this position, I just came into positions. Now I just create an action plan in my mind, find out who I can ally, find someone I can comfortable talking to. So, because if we can't express what's going on with that work, so you don't want to bottle that stuff up. So I use therapy. I find a coworker that you can confide in and comfortable to talk with. So that because you want to be able to ask questions, and you get into a place and you're not solid or secure and you're iffy about everything. First thing you got to do is start figuring what questions should I be asking? What am I wanting out of this? And where do I want to go? Yeah, I think that's it.
We have one last question probably because we have 5 minutes left. And the question is, did either of you participate in any type of program that helped you to advocate for yourselves? If so, then what types of skills and experiences did you learn from them? Goldie, do you want to start?
I didn't know I was advocating. I didn't know it was called self-advocacy until I got into the ILC. Then once I know I needed to do more, I had to start asking for those type of trainings, getting me into ADA, Pacific ADA trainings. Just recently, we did a Midwestern Academy training. Because we always have to find a way to connect with our members in our community and the people that we work with. I think I answered it.
Yeah. Jessica, do you want to go next?
For sure. One big one that truly did help me advocate for myself was when I was working for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. We went through this training that specifically focused on biases and how to recognize that each and every single one of us, we carry biases, and it is important to accept that because none of us are perfect. And it was a really amazing training because it truly did help kind of lead that sense of conversation on how to have open dialogue, have a good sense of communication, how to bring your individual concerns upon your direct supervisor, etc. How to be able to navigate certain uncomfortable things that you might be facing within your workplace. And I genuinely did learn so much that it has helped me along the way in doing different types of work when it comes to advocating for myself, because I have learned how to navigate certain conversations in a proper manner where it wouldn't feel like I am attacking anyone, in the sense that if I feel that I'm being offended, that like I could lead it in a very safe way that is a safe space for both me and the person that I am speaking towards to. And that was a really cool training because it did help me like be able to learn a lot of different methods and how to be able to lead those conversations. And that's what I learned from it.
Thank you. Now we only have 2 minutes left. I don't know if that's time for another question. I saw one in the chat that was biggest advocacy victory of this year, or the past year. Just in one sentence, do you guys each want to take that?
Ooh. Last year, one of our biggest advocates, there's just a lot. I would probably say the Cal Fresh bill that Yo decided to take a stance on, as well as Ed Roberts Day, simply because it was a really awesome presentation that was run by our Yo program and our Yo volunteers, and they did a freaking awesome job.
For Do Network, it's advocating for vaccine access for individuals with disabilities, that when they were not prioritizing individuals with disabilities when the vaccines first came out. There was a movement to where individuals with disabilities were acknowledged and put in the line for vaccines.
Okay, so thank you so much for our to our speakers, and thank you so much to everyone who came and who had questions. We have to go now because it's 4, but thank you so much for coming.
Survey Monkey will be at the end for everyone. So
Thank you.